What's up, guys? Hey, my name's Manny.
I'm Jess.
And you know what? I feel like we're missing someone right now. Who are we missing?
Jeff?
Jeff. All right, let's have a moment of silence real quick. Boom. Hey, you know what? We're having high school services starting back up October 27th at 7 p.m.
What do I gotta do?
Hey, you know what? You got to do one of two things, preferably both. First of all, we need you to invite your friends. All right, this is going to be such a fun time. We're starting things back up, and we're just going to have a rager. It's going to be a vibe check. It's going to be a big old vibe check, all right? But here's the deal. We also need you to do the second thing, which is the most important, and that is to register. We need you to register for high school services so that you could have a spot and that we could get you in there. But Jess, what else do we have coming up?
On October 31st, we've got a harvest party. We're so stoked about it. There's going to be food, there's going to be games, a raffle, and you get to come with your family and friends. Invite all of your friends.
I need it.
Have a blast. We're going to be doing the funnest, is that a word? It's a word now, but we're going to be doing great games. So you got to come.
It's going to be such a vibe. Guys, make it out to both of these if you can. But hey, you know what? I think that's going to conclude it.
Peace
but
out,
hey,
Jeff.
have a good week. Jeff, peace out.
All right, bye guys.
Hey guys, welcome to Midweek Small Groups. I am so excited, just like always, and I truly mean it that I'm so excited to get this opportunity to be together. I hope you guys are stoked about the announcement of us meeting in person, and I truly think that it is going to be so good to come together, to get to worship together, to get to have fun together, to just be around one another, and I'm so excited and hope to see you all there in 2 weeks. But first, tonight we are in week 2 of the comparison game, and just talking about what comparison and jealousy and all of this does to us. And I truly believe, even as I was prepping this message, felt so convicted of how I've been living my life and how I've recently just been stuck in this comparison game myself. And I think it looks different for you than maybe it does for me, but I know that these truths that we're going to learn about tonight and just this message that we're going to get to go over tonight is so relevant to what's going on around us and in our culture. And I just truly, my prayer is that you guys would get something out of tonight and be able to not only learn something, but be able to put something in action after tonight. So when I was in college, and maybe some of you have heard this story, I don't remember, I was going to this brand new internship, and I was so excited to meet new people and get to know new people. I was from out of town. A lot of people had been raised in this community. And so I get there and I meet these 2 girls, and they are wild. They're truly just like going nonstop. They're being crazy. They're like, I just remember them running around doing crazy things all the time. And maybe you can think of like those 2 people, or guys or gals or whoever. And maybe you're like, that's me. I'm the crazy one who's always doing things nonstop. But for me, I met these 2 gals and I was like, oh my gosh, they're a lot. Like, they just are always needing to be loud and crazy. And I was like, yeah, I don't like them. I think they're annoying, and I think that this, that, or the other thing. And I just remember being honestly kind of rude about it. And I didn't say any of this to anyone or to them, but just like thinking about it. And then like they would do something crazy and I'd be like, ugh, gosh, them again. And I think back to that, and I remember about 6 months in, maybe less time, maybe it was only a couple months in, and realizing once I got to know these 2 women that I was like, wait, they're actually so fun. They're so kind. They had never done anything to me to make me think that they were rude people. And I realized that I had made quick judgments, very quick judgments, based on the jealousy that I was feeling from seeing them just be so confident in who they were and just be truly knowing who they were as people and not caring what other people thought about it, especially me being just rude about it. And so I remember realizing these 2 girls are actually 2 of my best friends, like to this day. And it's so funny to me because I instantly judged who they were and then wrote them off based on my jealousy of not feeling like I could be that confident, or not feeling like I could, be that courageous to do wild things that they were doing. And so that's going to be kind of what we're talking about tonight is comparison with others, and then also how that creates instant jealousy in us. And sometimes this jealousy can lead to us being annoyed, or sometimes even the next feeling can be anger. And when we think about it, there are some people you don't like because maybe they're mean to you, or they've said rude things, or they've done an action or said something that makes it so, okay, that makes sense why you wouldn't like them. But then sometimes we dislike people, you dislike people, truly based off of nothing they've actually done, just because of jealousy that you have towards them. And sometimes this could be for so many reasons. Maybe it's because of the way they look. You think they're like beautiful or like super studly if you're a guy. Studly is a very outdated word. I shouldn't use that. Whatever. Whatever that word is for you. You think they're cool. You think they're like they have the best style, or maybe it's who they're dating, or where they live, or the car they drive, or how good they are at like some sport, or the list could go on of reasons why we might be jealous. Or maybe the reasons are something deeper. Maybe they seem like they have the perfect family and they've never had to deal with any separation or any household problems and family problems and things that you feel like you have to deal with on a daily basis. Or maybe their parents show up to everything and are super supportive, and you don't know what that feels like. Or maybe it's how they are healthy and have a great immune system, and you've been battling with super intense health problems that you don't think anyone else has to deal with. Whether it's something that is small or something that goes way deeper, this is the truth of what we know about it. Jealousy changes the way you see others, and it changes the way you see yourself. I'm going to say that one more time. Jealousy changes the way you see others and the way you see yourself. When you see things that other people have or don't have, or are getting into, or activities they're doing, it makes you jealous and thinking about the things that you want, or maybe you can never obtain those goals. And so the person becomes the source of your unhappy feelings, and eventually the target of your anger. And as we know, anger always follows jealousy. With jealousy comes this bitterness, this anger, this feeling of almost resentment that it can lead to other people. And so when we find these things and when we find ourselves in these places, we often distance ourselves, or we talk badly, we gossip about them, or we just start to make lists of things they're doing that help us to feel like, oh yeah, I knew that they weren't a good person. Oh yeah, I knew I was right in not liking them. When really, usually the reasons are things so petty and so small. And all of a sudden, we're not good with them and we're not good with ourselves. It truly just creates this whirlwind of bitterness that then comes back at ourselves. And so just like last time, we are going to take small breaks to discuss questions, and this is our first break for your small group to ask the first 2 questions. So go ahead and pause the video and talk about the questions. So we're talking about jealousy. We know it, we felt it, we may be experiencing it today or tonight. And if you've ever dealt with this, you're not alone. Like I talked about before, this is something that you won't necessarily grow out of. I know that's like kind of bummer news to find out, but the truth is that this is something we'll be struggling with for a while. And as human beings, this is something that has been around for a long time. So we're going to take a look at a character in the Bible who I think a lot of you maybe have heard of, and if not, then you're about to learn about them tonight. So if you have your Bible or your phone, go ahead and turn to or click on 1 Samuel, and then we'll get there in a second. So the man we're going to be talking about tonight is named Saul, and he was the first king over Israel. He was super powerful, very well liked for the most part, and he was generally respected by his kingdom. And at one point in his rule, the people found themselves in a battle against the Philistines. And if you know of the story we're maybe going into, the Philistines had a person named Goliath, who was a part of their army. And Goliath was massive. He was so tall and so giant. I honestly sometimes wish we had pictures from Bible times, and I know obviously we don't, but I just wish I could actually see a picture of what Goliath looked like, because it must have been wild. So huge, so massive, just so intimidating. And so we look at 1 Samuel verse 17, and during his rule, he actually was met with this problem. He was met with this situation where Saul was met with this problem where the Philistines were coming after them. They had to come against them in this battlefield. And as they're going up against them, they don't feel like they have anyone who could even match Goliath. So we see this in the verse, "Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war and assembled at Soko in Judah. They pitched camp at Ephesus Dimim between Soko and Azekah." So many wild words in there. "Saul and the Israelites assembled and camped in the valley of Elah and drew up their battle to meet the Philistines. The Philistines occupied one hill, the Israelites another, with the valley in between them." So really that verse is just setting up what the scene looks like. They're getting ready for battle. They're each set up camp on separate hills, and then the valley is where they're going to come together in this battle. And the Philistine secret weapon, who I mentioned earlier, was this man named Goliath, who was massive, who was huge. And it says, "A champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistines' camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span," which we should look that up and see what that really is. "He had bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor of bronze, weighing 5,000 shekels." So he was massive, like I said. He was huge. And David said to Saul, "Let me fight him." He was like, "I think I can handle it. I want to be your servant. I want to serve our people and go fight him." And Saul, David was probably your guys' age. He was super young, and not even a super tall basketball player or someone who was really tall and athletic. He was a young teenager who was pretty small in scale, especially to this Goliath man. And so basically Saul was like, "No, you're crazy. You're not going to go fight this Philistine. You're not near big enough. And also you're a young man. This is someone who has been training since he was very young, and he is a giant." And finally, David, I guess, convinces Saul that it's a good idea. So it says, "And the Philistine moved closer to attack him. David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet him, reaching into his bag and taking out a stone." Honestly, that is just, can we just pause? A stone. He sees this massive giant and he's like, I know, I've got a secret weapon. It's my stone. Imagine watching this and you're a part of the army and you're like, dude, the kid's gonna get destroyed. There's no way he's gonna make it through. So he pulls out this stone and he puts it in his sling and he slingshots it. And if you ever heard this story, you know that crazy enough, he actually he hits Goliath, and it must be some crazy pressure point that he hit, because it knocks him all the way down to the ground and he wins. And it says, without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. As you can imagine, David became a hero to all of the Israelites. He became a well-known person who everyone admired and thought so, so highly of. And it says, whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. So David was very successful, and the people started to really like David. In fact, they liked David more than they liked Saul at this point. And it's not that they didn't like Saul, they just saw how successful David was, and they respected him so much. And as you can maybe think, Saul wasn't a huge fan of this. It was one thing to have one of his people defeat Goliath, the giant, but it's a whole nother thing to have his people start to respect this kid more than they did him as the king. And so Saul's response was not great. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. As they continued to praise him, Saul actually went from not liking him or thinking he was in competition with him to actually wanting to kill David. It says, when Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. Saul couldn't have been happy for David. He could have been happy, could have been happy for David. He could have applauded him. I mean, for all me, like, he was the one who saw the success that David had inside of him and called him up into it. But instead, Saul felt threatened by David's rise to fame and power. In fact, he eventually, like I said, plotted to kill him, which is crazy. We will constantly encounter people who seem to have better things and a better life than us that will never stop. We'll always feel that way. We'll always encounter that. And if we aren't careful, that gut feeling of jealousy has the potential to not only ruin relationships with others, but also ruin the way we see ourselves. So go ahead and pause again and discuss questions 3 through 5 with your small group. Okay, so we all get it. Jealousy is around us. It's in everything we do. But what are we supposed to do about it? Because we all know that we can't just decide, great, I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to think this anymore. Good, it's gone. That's never worked for me, and I don't know for you guys. But we have to choose something else. And the other choice is that we celebrate others. Because the more we celebrate others, the more we like who we are and where we are. The more we celebrate others, the more we like who we are and where we are in life. This is something that I have been challenged by in the last season of my life. I am a single gal, 25 years old, little bio for you. And I have gotten the opportunity to be a part of many weddings. In fact, I just ordered my 6th bridesmaid dress and about to be my 7th in a week. So I have been a part of a lot of celebrations and been to even more weddings that I haven't been in. And something that has often been something I've struggled with is being tempted by the lie that I should have what they have, or why am I not in a relationship, or why am I not getting married, or this, that, or the other thing, or why am I not getting to plan these things that I'm getting to be a part of for other people. But time and time again, I have found that when I celebrate, and not like, oh yeah, I'm so excited you guys are getting married, but like, oh no, I'm stoked, I'm going to be a part of everything, I'm going to be in the planning of everything. I'm truly, genuinely excited, because when it comes down to it, I am so excited for the people in my life who I get to come alongside and go on adventures with and help plan their weddings and do this, that, and the other thing. But if I'm not careful, that jealousy will creep in and take over what I feel. But when I truly celebrate, I not only am excited and get to celebrate and be a part of people's lives, but I in turn am more excited about what's going on in my life. In fact, 2 great ways to put this into practice is to actually start with ourselves. Look at your own life and determine what's worth celebrating. For me, I have learned to celebrate things that maybe other people are. Let me back up. Our culture is really, really good about celebrating relationships and celebrating children and celebrating things like that, which is so good and so exciting. So don't hear me say that I don't love those things, because I really do. But I think we as a culture need to be better at celebrating other things that are happening in people's lives. Like when someone gets their license, or for you guys, when someone gets their first job, or maybe when you do really well on a report or a presentation. We get to celebrate those things. And that's truly what combats so much of our jealousy. And the other thing is move toward the person you're jealous of. Maybe for you, this is someone you know well, or maybe there's someone coming to mind and you're like, no, I don't really want to think about that. But the truth is that when we celebrate those people around us, and maybe like me, you even feel jealous feelings towards people that you actually really enjoy being around, but the enemy tries to use their successes or their exciting things in their lives as a ploy to make yourself feel like you're not worthy. But that is not the way of the Lord. And so I challenge you to celebrate the people around you. When someone in your life does something fun, don't think like, oh, I wish I could have done that. Or, oh, why wasn't I invited? Or why don't I get that opportunity? Think, oh my gosh, I am so excited for you. And I promise you, like truly promise you guys, this will change how you see things around you. It will change how you see things in your own life and in the people around you. So go ahead and pause for one last final discussion. I want to remind you guys that God isn't mad at you for being jealous. He understands what we're coming with. He understands that we see things and we walk through things, and he gets it. He also knows how much it can hurt you and your relationships. And that's truly why he wants to set us free from jealousy. It's truly why he wants us to no longer feel that burden. Jealousy will rot relationships and rot your peace. But the more you celebrate others, the more you will like yourself and where you're at and what you do and what you look like. And all of these things, you truly will feel so much better about who you are and what God has for you and your future. So I challenge you guys, even in your conversations in your small group, to think about practical ways that you can celebrate people in your life. And maybe you're like, I'm not ready to talk about those. Great, write them down and challenge yourself to do little things to celebrate others, and you will see a change in the way that you view yourself and your situation and what God has called you to. I hope you guys enjoy small groups today. Have a good one.